vida que no tiene un orden total. Ella da vueltas, sonríe y dice esto es de la broma el final. Se pierde en sus sueños, se pierde al dormir, sus amantes ya se van a ir. Piel rosa, que no es, piel rosa, que no es. Y sus amantes hablan sobre notas y flores que no hay que mandar. Ella es muy fácil. Bella en rosa, aquel que insiste fue el primero en fila, es el último en recordar.
In the back of the room, and I want to thank Mary for bringing this artwork out behind you. So back there are works of art from a couple of different shows, and what's remarkable about Mary is also she will take things that are discarded on the street and reuse them. Look at that Lena Lovitch, it's beyond.
Lena Lovitch is sick.
Beyond. Right? So Mary, can you Mary, like...
Can you all, if anyone knows Lena Lovitch, I mean...
It's beautiful, right?
This has captured every element.
But Mary damaged her foot in the Jonas Brothers mosh pit. It's sad but true. So, but I am going to make sure that I give her mic time.
I've survived punk rock since, 1979 until recently. Never got injured.
Until the Jonas Brothers.
Right. So, some of the questions. Oh, shoot! Hang on, I have to re-log in.
No, I don't have to. It's just like
Mary, were you born on Staten Island?
I was.
Yeah, good question. So,
Wow.
Mary,
wait,
I have questions besides the ones. Well, by the way, we discussed this previously, which is unfair. But one of the things that I would like to know is, first of all, why do you tell me about repurposing things and turning them into art?
you can hold it.
Okay. This is weird, but when I was young, I remember walking, I was not too young, but whenever the 99-cent stores came into being, they're telling me to be louder. I remember walking into my first 99-cent store and seeing just a sea of weird little things, objects, and wondering like, who's gonna buy this crap and why does it even exist? And it's just gonna end up in our landfill. And it just kind of freaked me out. And I decided that day that I would try to repurpose things as I could. So people give me their crap and I make art out of it.
And right, so there are two examples today, right, on the art in back there. Also, one of them is me. Do you see her with the little 45 and the blonde hair and that's me. Also, Mary made me an original painting of my all-time favorite Gary Newman, which is proudly put in my home. But one of the next things is, we've talked about this, but there are two aspects of Mary's background that are represented in the art today. One of them is growing up mostly Italian. I got it. And the other one is punk rock. So I'm going to let you talk about those two things.
Okay. So I had a show 2 years ago. I got a grant from Staten Island Arts. And the concept was my memories of growing up mostly Italian. It started with from a conversation me and my sister were having. We were talking about all these weird things growing up and fun things, good things, all good. And our fond memories of growing up, and we were discussing how even though we were, I'm sorry, I'm very nervous, 50% Italian, my father was Italian, my mother was French, German, and Irish, but how most of these memories and most of our growing up was mostly Italian. That's how we identified. So I did a whole show on that, and
Which ones are from that show?
just the one at the end, the woman smoking a
What's it
cigarette.
called?
World Weary. It's my grandmother. It's her whole
great.
story.
This one?
Coming to America, yeah. And what was the other one? Punk
The
rock?
other one is the punk rock.
Can you tell the story about your grandma sneaking cigarettes from us?
So my grandmother always used to have to hide the fact that she smoked cigarettes. So her and my aunt would be in the kitchen on Sundays making this big elaborate meal, and they'd be lighting up, and one of the guys would walk in and they'd throw the cigarettes, whatever. And my sister was probably about 8 years old at the time, and her and my aunt were smoking, and my grandfather walked in and they both shoved the cigarettes in my sister, who was 8 years old, in her hands, and she was standing there with two cigarettes. So yeah. Those are the things I painted.
I love that. And just so you know, also the other one there is Cheryl, right?
Yes.
That's Cheryl.
Oh, and you asked about punk rock.
Yes, and now the punk rock aspect.
So me and a very good friend of mine. That's good. We wanted to collaborate on
A show.
a show growing up in the 80s, us being
Nancy.
punk rock, and Nancy, she was going to be our history person because that's her thing.
So we didn't have to do it.
And it kind of fell by the wayside, but that's okay. But I'm still inspired to keep painting the punk rockers who I
So who are the people
Loved.
that you've done? In the back we have Debbie Harry and
Lena Lovitch,
Lena Lovitch, and who else have you?
Gary Newman, Billy Idol.
There's like a million
So
of them.
many.
The Patti Smith one.
Patti Smith.
The Patti Smith picture is amazing. The website is.
Just grab one of my cards. I have a long
They're on the
list
table
name.
back there with the.
MaryAntoniaLombardi.com.
Did you do your girl Pauline?
Pauline Black I painted twice. Yes. She's
Have any of the people you painted seen them?
Pauline Black.
Yeah. Cool. Questions?
Thanks, Josh.
I don't know. It might be a hard thing to articulate, but I feel like people are creative, and they should be, but they're not always, right? Sometimes they're awkward to do it, or don't think they can, or don't think they should, or something. And I just
Story of
have a
your
weird,
life.
yeah, right. And it's like that's like an artist's life, right? Like I can, I shouldn't, I'm not good enough. You push through. So I wanted to ask you if this makes sense. I hope it does. Like, what changes for you after you make something? Like after you realize you have something in your mind, or somebody that you want to embody, or I don't know, just some person maybe that doesn't even really exist, maybe not a real person, but you create something in somebody. Like what happens to you? Does anything change? Like what is it?
I don't know. It's different.
Yeah.
You know, I can't really put
It's a
a
hard thing
one
to say.
answer
Like
on
you just
that.
go, well, that's no. No.
Yeah,
it's
sometimes
gotta
I'm
be
like, oh,
some-
that's shit. You know. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I love this. This is great. You know.
I ask you because
Exactly. Next.
I just want to. I probably should make a statement because I feel like you're inspiring, and I feel like it's like you're creating the world. You know what I mean? You're creating your piece of the world. And it's healing.
I have a lot of good friends who help me along the way.
I have a question. So kind of related to what you were just talking about with Puma, like about being kind of far from the scene. That's how I always felt growing up on Staten Island. Like since I was 16 years old, going into Manhattan and Brooklyn to go to shows, to buy records, to meet other people like me. So what was that like growing up for you? Like you mentioned kind of being a punk in the 80s. So what did that look like on Staten Island? Like did you
It was the best time.
Oh my
right?
God, it was the best time.
It was. I mean, there was a whole scene here on Staten Island,
Yeah.
and that's what we wanted to show the world, because you could start on this side of Bay Street. You could walk by yourself, go into any bar, see a million people you knew. All the music was great, and it was a good time of collaboration, if you may say. So you had your punk rockers, you had your hip hop, you had, it was just like all these different scenes that you saw in Manhattan at the time, but it was happening here on Staten Island, and it was great.
What happened? Why did that happen anymore?
Beat the hell out of me!
It's like just like that, the song Ghost Town.
The 90s.
It's a
That's
long
right.
story.
All the
Yeah,
clubs
the-
have been
the
shut
90s.
down.
It was,
Yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah.
but for that to be recreated, you know.
I feel like there's a little bit of that happening right now.
It's getting
Yeah.
better.
It's getting better.
It's just expensive.
That'll be the next seminar. What the hell happened?
Yeah, well,
Yes,
What the
absolutely.
hell happened?
And I'll paint that.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you so much for this, and thank you to everybody. So.